Felix and Dean. We're back again. We're dream team. Billet lads. Oh, Billet lads.
Hello guys, welcome back. I'm Felix.
And I'm Dean.
And this is episode 2 of the Johnsbow N1 13 litre 4090 14900K small form factor build.
Are you going to name the video?
Yeah, that's what it's called, right?
Okay.
And so we left off last episode with the PC like this. We have our monoblock and motherboard, we have the power supply and the pump over here, and then on the other side we have a big, thick 280mm radiator. And we've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now, and we think we have a better layout idea.
Felix has come up with one of his crazy ideas. We had a perfectly good idea here, and then you had to just like take it up a notch.
It's not perfectly good though, it's exhausting hot air straight into a load of flat things.
There is a bit of a flaw with this.
So we're going to take you through our thought process over the last couple of weeks and show you where we're at now.
So this is where we left off, with a 54mm thick radiator, and as you can see we do not have much gap in here for the hot air to escape.
I mean, we were thinking about having fans on top, weren't we, to kind of suck the air out, but still
it would help, but we don't really have much space height-wise. But having more fans is a good idea. The alternative is to simply go for a thinner radiator. You can see over here we've got a 30mm thick, and this does a much better job. You've got more space for the hot air to escape, and often having a thinner radiator is better in some ways. Your fans don't have to work as hard, they'll be more quiet, and you don't lose that much performance.
Yeah, we looked into this a lot, didn't we? Like the difference between something like a 54mm radiator and a 30mm radiator is actually tiny. The vastly more important thing is the surface area on the front of the radiator.
Yeah.
So
this area is more important.
So this 280mm radiator and that 280mm radiator, which is thinner, are going to be very, very similar in performance. So by reducing it, we wouldn't really be reducing the cooling performance that much.
Sure. In a perfect world, you want more thin radiators. This adds complexity because you have to plumb more radiators, but we've decided to actually go that route, haven't we?
We have. So
look at all of this. We have 1, 2, 3 radiators and 5 fans going into this build.
So 1 radiator with 2 fans. We've changed to 3 radiators with 5 fans because we love making things incredibly complex for a tiny improvement, and we think this will be a tiny improvement because we're going to have a bit more surface area.
So the goodies that we've got in store for you today are a pair of 184mm radiators and a 120mm radiator, which is very, very thin. So we've gone from 1 thick radiator to 3 thinner radiators. But this works out as more surface area across these 3 radiators than we did with the single 280mm.
So just as a quick comparison, here is the original 280mm radiator laid out next to our new radiators, and you can see the difference in surface area. There's a lot more surface area than here. Well, not a lot. There's about 10% more surface area with this collection of radiators compared to this one. So this is the layout that we had at the end of the last episode, but what we're going to do is instead mount the power supply much closer to where it was originally designed to be in this case, and that has the added benefit of us not having to run the kettle lead through the case out the back. It can just be used directly from the back of the case. The pump will then go on top of here, probably somewhere like that, and then we have our 284mm radiators, and we're going to have one here and one here, and then we take our single 120 and that is going to go here. So why are we doing this? What's the advantage of this over the previous layout? Well, you can see that this will actually be floating about here. You can see that the fans have so much more space now for the hot air to come through and not immediately hit something. And we're not going to be pulling in air from both sides with this setup. this radiator is going to be exhausting air. So all the fans and all the airflow, they're going in the same direction. We've got air coming in, we've got water being cooled, we've got the hot air coming out, and then this fan is helping that airflow. So it's going to be a lot easier on the fans. They don't need to do as much work to be pushing air in places it doesn't want to go. And it's just going to be a much nicer flow through of air. So we think the cooling here, the idea we've got for the cooling is going to be not significantly better than the other idea, but it's going to cool it better. And that's so important because we're using such a power-hungry CPU and GPU. And this probably brings us on to a good point to answer a couple of questions that were in the comments. One of those being, why are we using an Intel CPU for a gaming PC when it puts out so many more watts than an equivalent AMD CPU that will game just as well? And the answer is, it's not a gaming PC. It's an everything PC. We've gone over this in quite a lot of detail with the customer. They use it for gaming, and that's why we're using a 4090. But they use it for just general other things as well. It's a workstation. They do video editing, they do photo editing. They do all sorts of things. So with this combination of CPU and graphics card, this is the best possible PC for their use case. And then the other question that we've been asked a couple of times is why we've chosen this case. The primary reason is because this is the case the customer wants. But there was a lot of discussion with the customer about what they're going to use this PC for, and they want it as a travel PC. They want to be able to put it in a bag, carry it around, and take it between various places to work. And a lot of the other cases are made from multiple panels joined together, and they're not particularly strong. But with this case, it's one continuous piece of metal. It's so much stronger than any other case we've ever seen. It's 2.5 mil thick, aluminium, bent round, and it's one piece. There is no risk of the corners bending up or bits getting caught on bits of fabric if you're putting this in a bag or something. So for this customer's use case, this PC and these combination of components are perfect for them. So that is why we are using them.
So the next step for us to do is to extend this central spine on the case. The spine is the piece that everything bolts to. The motherboard and the radiators will eventually bolt to that. If we take this, you're going to have a radiator on either side. Everything bolts to this. Now, I think the best thing for us to do is to make a central spine out of wood to begin with. That way we can get our mounting holes and everything correct. We can mess around with wood a little bit. And in case you're wondering, you can't bolt anything to the side of the case because you need to be able to slide the central chassis in and out of the outer housing. That's why everything has to be bolted to this piece. You cannot bolt anything to this piece, otherwise you'll never be able to slide the components in and out. So we'll be replacing this metal piece with a wooden spine that extends the full length of the case. We'll be using this bracket, bolting straight through this into the wooden board.
That's the same bracket that is already on there that the monoblock is mounted to.
Then we've got to figure out a way to mount the radiators to the central board as well, because we're currently using these holes to mount the fan. So we'll have to put a nut and bolt through there.
Yeah, some kind of spacer.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
And then obviously we'll cut a big hole in the wood. It's not going to be a solid piece of wood. It'll be mostly an outline of the shape of the case, really, so that all the air can still flow through the middle.
Is there anything else we need to bolt to the central spine? I think that's it.
I don't think
what
so.
About the pump? The pump itself?
The pump, yeah, the power supply is attaching to the back of the case, to this piece here. But yeah, the pump.
The pump, we can use these to bolt here onto the wooden board, can't we?
Yeah, that way the plumbing is facing in the right direction.
We've got a nice bit of oak we can use.
We do. I have some oak in the cupboard, actually. But yeah, if the pump was mounted to the back of the case, then the plumbing is never going to be facing in an easy direction to do anything with. So yeah, that needs to mount to the central spine as well.
It's a nice looking pump top, Felix. Where'd you get that from?
Top secret.
So, we've cut some wood to size. This is a nice bit of oak. This is going to be the central spine for our case. What we've got is 3 holes here. These are the ones that we drilled out in the last episode. We're probably going to turn them into slots so that we have some adjustability to where we position the spine in this direction. And to get this spine mounted to here, we're going to use these little brass inserts. 3 along there, 2 along the back, which gets us connected to this face, and we'll take it from there. We have our board fitted, and the motherboard and monoblock are mounted to it, and it just about slides into the case. It's a very, very tight fitment, he says, as he pinches the cable. Now we've got to fit the radiators, and because we've gained some extra height having 2 radiators stacked on top of each other, you can now see we're not making it under this corner. We're interfering with the edge of the case. So we've got to lose about 5mm. That can be done by thinning out this central spine. We can also sink the brackets. If you come in here, Felix, the back plate of the motherboard, we can sink that into the central spine by chiseling out the wood. That'll gain us 3mm. We also have, every millimetre counts here. We have 2mm on the heads of these bolts, so we can lose them.
Oh, because we'll be bolting it in from
the other side.
This side. So the head of the bolt will be on this side. Yeah, so the fan will be flat
So
against
that's
the wood.
about 5mm.
Obviously, we'll have cutouts in the wood for the fan. It's not going to be like right
And
up
it's
against
still
it.
going to be very tight. I'm not sure if this is going to fit. We're going to have to get
I
creative.
am optimistic, but obviously, yeah, small form factor builds, huh?
I know, right?
I think it'll go.
We've got to make it go.
But yeah, so I guess next thing is then to chisel out where the monoblock backplate is, sink that into the spine, and then because we got the slots on the bottom, we probably didn't explain that very well, that allows us to shift this spine over by 3mm, which is how we'll gain that depth on this side rather than bringing the monoblock in. So I'm far from a woodworking expert, but hopefully this will look acceptable, at least for prototyping purposes. So that's probably one of the worst chiseling jobs I've done for years. Ended up actually cracking the wood. Glued it back together, and it's fine for, I mean, this is a prototype to get the fitment right, so it's not super important. But I think if we do this again, I'll probably buy a router and do it properly. Anyway, the back plate is now sunk into there, as you can see. So now, if we put the motherboard on, we've gained a few millimeters. You can see how low the board is to the panel now. So let's put this back together. Okay, so everything is sitting roughly where it would go. The radiator would be down this end. But unfortunately, I slide it in and we're still maybe 3mm overhanging that edge there. So this is 12mm thick wood. We probably need to go down to 9mm and remake that central piece.
Okay, we've now got our 9mm bit of MDF with the bracket inserted. We've got a recess, so it sits pretty flush with the board. And we're now going to mount this and see if those 3mm we've gained is enough to fit the radiators into the case. Okay, the board is now fitted inside the case, and it is now the moment of truth.
If this doesn't work, I'm not really sure how we can lose any more width. Oh!
It's going.
Watch out for the cable.
Well spotted. Let go. Look at that.
Oh my god, I'm so happy.
No space on either side.
Go on, just push it all the way in, check it fits.
Just be very careful with this riser cable.
Oh, that's such a relief. I really didn't want to go down to 6mm MDF.
Okay, there's a few more modifications we've got to make to the case before everything is going to fit. Firstly, we need to chop out this upturn on the bottom of the case, just so we can sit the radiator and fans, remember, down as low as possible, because currently the radiator is going to sit on top of this upturn. So we're going to chop all of this out from here. Similarly, there's an upturn, if you come around on the inside of the case, there's a small upturn here. It's only a mil thick, but we need to cut half of that off so that the power supply sits flush with the rear of the case. Another thing with the power supply on the rear of the case, at least for now, and this prototype, because remember we're going to make a new rear I/O panel for this case, but for now we can't get our kettle lead in, and we're also hiding the power switch. So we're going to make a cutout for that. Okay, the cutout in the power supply has been made. We've removed that upturn there, the upturn along this length, and the final two lugs have also been removed.
So we've got the case assembled again, or the inside of the case, and the next thing is just to mark up where everything goes. So we're going to temporarily mount the power supply, figure out where the pump's going to go, mark out the holes for that, and then start marking out the holes to mount the radiator and the fans onto this side, and then the other radiator and fan onto this side. So we spent several hours meticulously marking out and then drilling every single hole that we will need to mount everything to here. And it's time for the full assembly. Okay, so it's nearly midnight and we're ready to call it a day, but we're very happy because we have everything assembled and in the case and it fits. So that's really good.
Should we take a look inside?
Let's do it. You got it.
This is it. A PC with 3 radiators, a monoblock, a pump and a power supply, all mounted. Okay, the power supply is not mounted, but we need to make a rear I/O panel for that.
But everything else is mounted, the pump is fixed, the radiators are fixed, all 3 of them. Wow. And it looks so cool.
Yeah,
it looks so cool.
It's solid.
I'm so happy with how that looks.
Now we've got a little bit of space left over because our customer wants a 2.5-inch drive.
Yep, as well, yeah, so that'll fit here or here. There's lots of little awkward gaps of space that we can squeeze that into.
We'll have a look at the space alongside the power supply for the cables. We did test some cables in the power supply. You've got just about enough where I'm happy we'll be able to get all of our cables into there. So this side of the case is nice and tightly packed. There's no real wasted room. Plumbing, cables, it's packed. Over here, we probably have space for a drive above this radiator. There's going to be a lot of plumbing to do as well. So I think in the next episode it'll be wiring and plumbing.
Well, before that, because this central spine is still a solid piece of MDF, we need to spend a lot of time making holes for all the airflow, because we're going to be cutting out almost all of this, leaving just the locations where the bolts mount, so there's lots of airflow going through it. And then also the outside of the case,
oh, that's true.
Obviously this isn't even close to enough airflow, so we're going to be chopping almost all of both sides out, I think, or at least where the radiators are. So something else that me and Dean have been talking about is the actual finish on the case, because once we cut some holes in, it's going to be difficult to maintain a consistent kind of neat finish with the anodizing that's on the case at the moment. And you like the finish on here, don't you? And I quite like it as well, but I also really like the idea of sanding all the anodizing off back to bare aluminium, and then working up through various grades of sandpaper and then mirror polishing the whole case.
Mirror
I
polish.
want to mirror polish the whole thing.
Like a Mandalorian build.
Yeah, because then when you slide it out, we're probably going to do some copper plumbing in here. We're going to have to do some soft tubing, but we're going to do copper wherever we can. We've got the brass pump top, bare aluminium. The customer probably wants a handle on the top, so like a leather handle with bare aluminium, copper.
Some brass accents on the outside.
Yeah. I think that could look so cool. Quite unconventional as well. So let us know what you think. Should we sand all the coating off and polish it? Or should we try and keep it a bit more kind of subtle how it is? The customer has given us basically full creative control over the appearance of it. Sure. So we can do what we want there.
Okay, well thank you for watching this episode of A Build with Billet Labs. Please let us know what you thought in the comments, and thank you for watching.
Cheers guys, take care.